Ladies and gentlemen, this is a video for nerds and geeks only. If you're not one of those, then frankly you're not welcome. Go, leave. We don't want you here because today we're going to talk about the incredibly exciting world of power supply cables. Hooray! And more importantly perhaps, the world of the new PCI Generation 5 12-volt high power connections, because inside this bag from Cablemod, not only do we have a load of new cables to check out, but we have all of their 12-volt high power connection adapters along with some cables. And I've also got the ones from Corsair and that horrible included adapter that you get inside the box with something like the RTX 4080 or 4090. So today I'm going to discuss all of the options, why you might want to upgrade the cables in the first place, and ultimately whether any of this is actually worth the cost. I told you it was going to be exciting and you guys didn't believe me. And because you've lasted this long, which means you've got a little bit of extra time to check out today's sponsor. Deepcool's LT series of liquid coolers is here, and it brings jaw-dropping visuals and powerhouse cooling to your gaming rig. Equipped with Deepcool's 4th generation water pump for optimized coolant flow, FK120 high-performance fans, and breathtaking RGB flare, what's not to love? They're available in both black or white, in 240 and 360ml flavors. Grab yours today with the link down below. Right, let us begin by doing the most exciting bit, shall we, and actually seeing what we have. Well, this is a full set of light blue cables, and obviously you can use the Cablemod configurator to get the right length, the right colors, customize every single cable and every strand. Well, maybe not, what you wouldn't call it every strand, every wire. So if you want to mix it up and have completely different colors, you can do that, or you can go for a complete set like we have here today. We've even got a bag of blue screws. You laugh, but it does make a big difference. I mean, I'll be honest, it is a little bit too much packaging. I mean, surely you don't need a bag for every one, but then again, if you're spending this sort of money on cables, I guess you really do want the very best. You do also get a series of cable combs included, and again, it's nice that you can customize these, so if you do want like a different color, maybe you want more or less of them, then you can do all of that in the configurator. And I will start really just by saying that in terms of quality, these are clearly the best, even versus the standalone ones that we've got here from Corsair. But I almost want to walk you through in terms of tiers, really, because obviously this is the most expensive, it's the most premium, it's probably what you're going to see a lot in YouTubers' videos, whether it's mine or other people's. But just because they're the best, it doesn't mean that you should go out and buy them, right? It depends really how much you prioritize looks, and ultimately if you're not necessarily running the best graphics card and you've got £100 to upgrade your PC, then cables is definitely something that probably shouldn't be near the top of the list, but there's no doubt about it that you can reuse them and they make your PC look very, very smart. So those are our blue cables, but I've also got some yellows to match the PC build that we did a few weeks ago. You can find this video at the top right corner of your screen, and I think you'll agree that they did make that system pop. But then again, it also had a 4K touchscreen on the case itself, so that probably grabbed a little bit more attention. But you know, you guys have probably seen various different cables before, and I specifically really wanted to talk about the new 12-volt high power connection. And a very brief history lesson, in case you're not already fully up to date. When Nvidia launched, I believe it's the 3090 Ti, but probably more importantly, the 40 series of GPUs, then you probably would have noticed that they do have this new connector on it. This is called the 12-volt high power connection, and you have 12 pins that carry the power, up to 600 watts on the top cards and the top connectors, and then these little 4 sense pins on the top. And I think it's fair to say that the launch wasn't exactly as smooth as Nvidia would have liked, because there were of course reports of these things burning up inside people's gaming PCs, which is exactly what you don't want. And essentially the main culprit was the fact that the PCIe connections weren't actually plugged in all of the way. And you could argue that that was user error, right? Because it wasn't clicked all of the way. But obviously people said that they did push them in all of the way. And I would argue that if you design a connection that is that temperamental that if it isn't plugged in all of the way, it causes that sort of problem, then that's definitely a flaw with the design. And Nvidia has since issued some updates to the cables and adapters, but people like Cablemod also came up with some third-party solutions to essentially stop this happening and making sure, oh, I've got some gold ones as well, to make sure that essentially this wasn't going to happen. And they have actually had 2 iterations of these now. There was the 1.0 angled adapter, and there's now the 1.1. And I believe that the 1.1 is still available at the time of filming. To those that bought the first edition, you can just get a completely free upgrade. You don't need to return the old ones, and they revised these a little bit further just to give them a bit less less wiggle room, again, just to reduce the risk of any problems. And to be fair, there's probably a fair few people watching this wondering why there's the need for this and why you should buy a right angle adapter. And essentially that's twofold. That's also partly due to the safety issue, because people, especially if your graphics card's large or very close to your side window or glass, you don't want to have to kink your cable. That's what potentially is going to have those pins that are either going to be coming out or not quite as tight as possible. That's one of the solutions to this. But then also it is down to neatness. I mean, I don't think that's particularly neat that we've got going on here. It looks a damn sight better than your standard cables, but there's definitely a bit of room for improvement there. And that's why you can buy these adapters. And there are 4 different variants and they come in loads of different colors. Essentially just make sure you're buying the right one, because not every graphics card has the same orientation of the connection. Some will be facing upwards, some will be facing down, and obviously that's why you get a variant for each to make sure it will fit in your case and go in the correct orientation. You can also buy a 90 degree and a 180. 90 will send the cable going up or down, whereas the 180 will sort of push it in and then have it coming back down and then towards the motherboard as well. So again, if that's the look you want to go for, and maybe that's going to work better with your particular case or your preference of cable management, then that's the route you're going to want to go down.
Why have you gone off? We want the RGB lighting.
At the time of filming, these retail for roughly 30 euros. I think it's 29.90, and obviously your dollar equivalent over in the US. But let's have a quick look, because I haven't seen one of these before, and see what we get. I mean, it definitely feels like a very solid product. It is metal here on the top, but I mean, obviously that's still a lot of money, even if it's worth it in terms of engineering cost and all of that stuff. I'm not saying it's overpriced. I'm saying that obviously spending a large sum of money on a right angle cable connection is not going to be everyone's personal preference when it comes to priorities for a gaming PC. But this is the black color. This is one of the 180 bridges. This is going to be a 90 degree in white. I mean, that's actually pretty cool, isn't it? If you're going for an all white build, that is really going to transform it. And so we have a direct comparison. I've also got one in white, but then in the different orientations. So they look more or less the same, but then when you get this under the overhead, you can see what I mean about how the sense pins are actually on the other side, as is the latch. So it is going to give you a completely different orientation. I mean, we can just plug this into our card to demonstrate. I'm sure you people are very smart though and could have worked that out for yourself. But that's what this one looks like on the 4090. Grab our white cable actually from Corsair, look. And there you can see, if you're doing a white build, that obviously looks a fair bit cleaner and doesn't have anywhere near as much wiggle or flex to the cable as if you were plugging this directly in and sort of having it come round in a loop. I suppose we probably should do ourselves a proper wiggle test as well, and that is noticeably tighter than just the cable itself. I mean, that is very robust. So if I was worried about having something that wasn't a proper tight connection, honestly, that's doing a pretty fine job. Oh, and of course, that was the whole point of the demonstration. If you were going to go for the other variant, it would then look like that, which some people will definitely prefer, especially if you do have like space in your bottom chamber where you've got a cutout. I personally would want to go down that route, but again, it's down to personal preference and compatibility of your card. I mean, with a 90 degree, it's not really going to be a problem. Oh, actually, I've discovered a potential, not flaw, but something you have to deal with, which is your latch is now covered by this connection. It is going to make it a little bit harder to remove. Look, I'd say gently use a flathead, and then you can just lift that out. If you're more interested in a 180 though, then again, we have 2 black variants this time. Exactly the same thing, just different orientation of the sense pins on one of them. But obviously this is where you do need to make sure that you definitely are buying the right one, because if you don't, this won't go in anywhere, because the whole point is it's supposed to chuck it out the back. So let's proceed to get this inserted. And there you have a completely different look. And I guess you'd sort of tuck it underneath your ATX at the top there. I mean, that's personally not my favorite way to go. I mean, I get that you've probably paid loads of money for expensive cables in the first place, but I think it does look a lot cleaner just to have it neatly going underneath your graphics card. Whereas here, you're gonna sort of have to have it like that. I don't know, have I got this wrong? Let me know down in the comment section below. So here we are then, 120 euros or dollars worth of adapter. I mean, obviously, if you want one and you need one, it's gonna serve its purpose. I mean, they're very well built. I don't have any problems with them. But as I say, they're probably not the highest priority. So if you are going to look at doing some of your system rather than doing it all no expense spared, then I wanna turn your attention to cables, because things have definitely changed over the last few years. I mean, what we've got here is an example of what was one of the better value ways of doing it. This was a Pro PSU kit from Corsair. This was a red one. I believe you could get them for about 70 to 80 pounds or dollars or so, which is still a lot of money. I mean, I have a friend, Rob, actually. We're doing a full PC build with him, I think, in a week or two. Get subscribed so you don't miss it. He hasn't built a PC before, so it'll be cool to see how he gets on. But ultimately, he was like, well, you know, I'm spending all this money on a gaming PC. I don't want to be spending a load extra on cables. But I was trying to say to him, honestly, if you can do it, it makes such a big difference. But ultimately, this is your sort of baseline, right? If you're going for an RTX card, chances are you're going to be looking at something like this. It does vary, by the way, depending on which model you go for. It's only the 4090 that comes with these 4 adapters, then it steps down to 3 and then 2, and actually on the 4060 it's an old-fashioned 8-pin. So that looks crap and you will want to replace that. And the cheapest way of doing that is to grab something like this. This is the bog standard non-braided cable version from Corsair. This is a 600-watt adapter. This is going to look so much better than having that horrible adapter, and it is going to match the cables that you probably already have with your existing power supply, and it is one of the cheaper ways of doing it. It's going to look absolutely fine, but it's not going to transform the way that your rig looks. So instead, you might want to step up to what I would describe as the medium option. This is that cable that we were just showing a second ago. This is around about 25 pounds of dollars, and this connects to your existing Corsair Type 4 power supply. And again, you can get this in a range of different colors. So the one that we've got there is the red and black, kind of matches the red cables that we were using from that pack in this system. But the quality of this, while it's definitely better, but it still doesn't look anywhere near as nice as those Cablemod ones. You can get extra cable combs and things to neaten it out a bit, but I would say it definitely doesn't look quite as premium. But this is still rated at 600 watts and it will match all of the other cables. I mean, if you do go for a brand new Corsair Type 5 power supply, so the Shift series, they are now actually selling these, which are kits that include all of the cables that you need literally straight out the box. And I think, yeah, this cable is either identical or about as similar as you can get. No, that looks identical to me. Be careful with the white, by the way, because the more you use it, or at least the more you touch it, the more oily it can get and discolored. You can see this one has definitely been used by me building quite a few PCs. Always wear protection, folks. It's definitely worth remembering, by the way, that not everyone actually needs a solution, because if you do buy a new power supply, this is the Pure Power 12M from Be Quiet, then you'll probably notice that you do get a 12-volt high power connection inside the box as standard, which is going to have more or less the same performance, again assuming that you've got the right wattage. This one is rated 450, but obviously it depends on the exact power supply and the power that it's rated for. But I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that this is also pretty hideous. I mean, it will do the job, especially if you're doing like an all black build, maybe not much RGB lighting and you can't really see it. It's not going to be a problem. It's not the best, is it? But the point really that I'm trying to make is that while the adapter definitely has a purpose, especially if you're someone that wants to, well, I suppose needs to actually use it because you're worried about having too much wiggle on the cable or you have to flex it too much. That's what this is trying to do. It's not just an aesthetic thing, it's a very practical product as well. But if you did have only 25, £30 to spend, then obviously upgrading this to this is going to make quite a bit more of a big difference. But of course, there are plenty of people that don't want to go for one of the more affordable options. They want to go all out and have the best looking system possible. And that's when you are going to be looking at like a full Cablemod style system, and you can get these cables as either like 12 pin to 12 pin or 16 to 16, but what most people will probably want, because then they can use it with their existing power supply, is one of these. So you can see the difference. I've got this both in yellow and blue. This is a 3 8-pin to your 12-volt high power connection. And it's worth noting that if you're someone that is going to upgrade your graphics card maybe to like an RTX 1590 or whatever it's going to be called in the future, any card that will use 600 watts, I still don't think this is probably going to work for, because you'd need the full 4 8-pins like you have on this adapter, but the 4090 works absolutely fine just with 3 of these 8-pins, so that's what I'm going for now. And you can see that you do actually have this little protective cap on the top as well, which will stop it from bending that way and thus your connections coming loose. You do have a little bit of flex if you do want to go the other way, but you've certainly got less flex than some other connections, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be by design. So once again, we can plop this inside our GPU, and then actually when you lift this up, that little protective cap does give you a nice bit of arcing to the top of your graphics card. It does make it look a little bit neater. As for the 90-degree adapter, that's what it would then look like. Again, depends how much your cable is going to go off at an angle. I personally prefer it going downwards. Yeah, you see? That's better, isn't it? Nice, tucked out of the way, you can still see it. I like that. Which then, of course, leaves us with just one more adapter to go, 180. And actually, I can now see the appeal of that because you've got the black connection, obviously goes with that Founders Edition card, and then your cable is neatly moved out of the way. I mean, this is quite an expensive way to go, and obviously you'd need to match all of the cables in the rest of your system, really. It would look a bit odd if you just had one blue cable. This is what money will get you if you want your system to look its absolute best. But let's probably do the most important thing actually, which is to get all of our cables under our overhead so you can actually see the difference in terms of what you're buying. I mean, I definitely think the Corsair will look better if you do organize it with some cable combs, but there's no doubt about it that the actual thickness of the wires on this is like a nylon-y finish, I believe. That looks really quite nice. Let's actually see what this looks like in our system, shall we? Out with the old and in with the new. Actually, if I was to complain about something, it's that little protective PCIe shield that stops your cable bending too much does come off way too easily and keeps coming off when you don't want it to, which is a bit annoying. But what I was going to say is that just by transforming the color of your PC from red to blue in terms of cables, you can see it does give it a completely different look, which is quite cool actually. I mean, this is a lot more relaxed, so we say. I mean, I'm not going to explain color theory to you, frankly, because I'd be blagging it. I don't really know what I'm talking about. But you can't argue that that definitely does look very neat, but still very different to what we had before. So we do still need to tidy it up a little bit, but there is your bog standard full Cablemod. No adapters or anything. I mean, you can see actually one of the problems potentially is that you have all of this cable down the bottom, and if it doesn't properly line up with your motherboard tray, then you do get this sort of stowage down there that doesn't look so good. So let's see what happens if we do want to use one of our adapters. Get that in nice and tight and then gently push that in. I mean, I would actually advise plugging it into the adapter first because clearly that has not got as much play. What did I say about this? Keep coming off. It is pretty annoying, I'll be honest with you. And we can plug that into our GPU. Again, making sure that is ultra tight. Let's turn this on. And I think you have to admit this is an absolutely jaw-dropping, fantastic looking system. I mean, how much of this is down to the cables rather than those RGB fans or the all-glass case or maybe the RTX 4090 Master? Well, that's down for you to judge, but they definitely do finish it off and they make a big, big difference. I think they bring a sense of elegance to a build. But while I could definitely talk about cables till the cows come home, frankly, you guys are probably
done with this now.
So, in a nutshell, if you are looking to upgrade your PC cables, then you can do it on the cheaper side of things, but the reason the Cablemod ones are a bit more expensive is because they are higher quality. If you care about that, great, there's more customizability as well. Go for it, but it's by no means essential. So you can do it on the cheap, especially if you do just need to grab that one cable to replace your NVIDIA horrible adapter that you probably got on the box. As for the adapters, I mean, they're well built. There's no complaints with them really. Just be advised that they're not gonna make like a drastic difference to your system. So I would only advise buying them if you specifically need one, either for an aesthetic route, or of course, because you are gonna have limitations with the glass actually touching one of these adapters and you're worried about it being overstretched. But if it's purely for aesthetics, then get a good custom cable first. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you invested in some cables before? What brand were they? Are you happy with them? What color? Now is the time to preach about how much you love cables in that comment section below. Please smash the like button if you've enjoyed this, get yourself subscribed, and if you are interested in current pricing on anything that was featured in this build, well, you can find that link down below with our Amazon affiliate links. And while you're down there, why not check out Deepcool? Deepcool's CH560 Digital has arrived, and this is a PC case with a difference. Not only do you get a stunning airflow-orientated design, but you'll find a digital readout for both your GPU and your CPU, allowing you to monitor your temps and utilization at just a glance. Not only that, but thanks to the 4 included 140mm ARGB fans, you get fantastic airflow and good looks straight out the box. Available in both black or white, get yours today with the link down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. We'll catch you in the next one.